Rocky Patel needed the expertise of the old cigar families, but they weren't exactly friendly to outsiders.
I was having trouble finding the right partners with regards to making sure that the factories are going to be a joint venture and give me the control, whether I can get the right raw materials and the best tobaccos, because I'm the outsider. It's like a little mafia group protecting themselves, old school. They don't want to let this guy in to get all the good things.
Patel struggled with one factory operation after another.
And I'll tell you, being down in Honduras and Nicaragua was the most difficult combative period. We would get into yelling matches, we'd get into arguments, I would be fighting with supervisors, with people in the growing, in the aging. They were stubborn people from Cuba with a lot of pride, and they certainly had a lot of knowledge. But I was bucking the whole system.
Then one family in Honduras took an interest in the outsider, the Plasencia family.
The Plasencia family has been in the cigar business forever, and I said, listen, you have to trust me. You're one of the biggest growers of Cuban seed tobacco in the world. You've been in the cigar business for about 40 years, but you don't have a brand that is famous, that's recognized. You don't get the respect. Allow me to take over this factory. Allow me to pursue my vision.
After his return to Florida in 2002, Rocky took another gamble, one he bet would set him firmly on the path to success.
I came back to the office and I told everybody, well, we're going to change the name from Indian Tobacco to Rocky Patel.
And I said, Rocky, who the heck wants to smoke a Rocky Patel? Who is Rocky Patel? Nobody knows who Rocky is.
And they all started laughing at me.
None of these guys wanted the name Rocky Patel on it. They go, who's going to buy a cigar with the name Rocky Patel? Rocky goes, watch.
A year later, the Rocky Patel Vintage Series were packed and ready, a cigar that Patel says was finally good enough to bear his name. And if it was good enough for the Patel name, it was good enough for that old face-to-face selling he'd done years earlier. So Patel hit the road, visiting retailers, holding events, sleeping on couches again.
We have about 2,500 retailers, and there's never really been the owner of a particular brand like Rocky Patel who's ever showed up at their doorstep and literally spent time with them and talked to them about the journey and what he does in the farms and the curing and the fermentation and how the blends are made.
His first offerings garnered him high ratings, and the Robb Report praised the Vintage Series as, quote, the best of the best.
This was your first cigar, right? The
It
one that
is.
put you on the map,
Yes,
basically.
this is the one we talked about, the vintage. This is the 1990 vintage, and as you can see, it's a 12-year-old wrapper from Honduras. The cigars are perfect, look like chocolate.
But Rocky was just getting started. He quickly stirred up the cigar world again a year later.
This cigar initially was packed in a tray of 100, and
Nobody does that, right?
people thought I was nuts. It had no cigar band on it, and it was packed in a tray of 100. Everyone said, you'll never sell it, nobody's gonna buy it.
It became the #1 selling cigar. His company went from rolling fewer than 200,000 cigars a year to almost 2 million. The quality of those cigars not only remained consistent, it got even better.
People don't understand how difficult it is to make a cigar. It's much harder to make a cigar than, believe it or not, to make a car, because it's all done by hand and there's 300 different hands that have to touch it, and there's so many different variables that come into play all the time.
In 2008, he introduced a cigar called the Decade, marking the 10 years since Patel had launched himself into the business he knew so little about. Cigar Aficionado, the Bible of the industry, rated the cigar 95, a landmark achievement, one shared by only a few of the best makers of cigars in the world.
So you're the outsider who comes in. They must have, does anybody resent you today?
We have a lot of good people in the cigar business, and all the other manufacturers, I think, respect me now, and I certainly admire and respect them.
Are you a member of the club now?
I am a member of the club now. Yes, I would say that I'm a member of the club.
Today, Patel produces more than 18 million cigars a year, with revenues of some $37 million.